Today we're talking about forgiveness, aka that thing that we all know that we should do, but if we're real, most of us would rather walk barefoot on Legos. And I get it, forgiveness is complicated, especially when the person that you need to forgive is not sorry, or the person that hurt you doesn't realize what they did, or when they are playing the victim. But here's the thing, forgiveness is not about them at all, actually. It is 100% about you freeing yourself from the emotional energy that it's draining you from. It's freeing yourself from that emotional weight that is draining your energy, your peace, and your joy. And let's be honest, your ability to enjoy life without side-eyeing that person that reminds you of your ex. So today we're going to break down what forgiveness really is, why it's so damn hard, and how to do it in a way that doesn't feel like we're letting somebody off the hook. Because spoiler alert, that's not really what it is at all. So take some deep breaths. It's going to be fine. I promise. You know what time it is. It's time to tune in and shift with me. Welcome back to the On Some Real Shift podcast, where I have real conversations on what it takes to shift your mindset and up-level your emotional and spiritual life. I'm your host, Vanessa. I'm a certified life coach, mindset coach, NLP practitioner. I do Reiki and sound bath healing, but most importantly, I am a student of the university. Welcome back. I don't even know what episode this is, because your girl has finally bulk taped. So we're going to see. All I know is I've been consistent for like 7 or 8 weeks now, so thank you.
So before we talk about what forgiveness is, let's talk about what forgiveness is not, because there are way too many bad takes on this floating around.
Let's shut this one down right now. Forgiveness is not excusing somebody's shitty behavior. You can forgive somebody without excusing, without justifying, or downplaying whatever the infraction was. They had a rough childhood is not a free pass for treating you like garbage. Sure, it might provide context into some of the reasons why they might move the way that they move, but completely independent and does not excuse raggedy behavior. It just doesn't. Forgiveness simply says, I'm releasing myself from this emotional burden that you placed upon me. Number 2 is forgiveness is not synonymous with reconciliation. I think that's a big one. People think, if I forgive them, that means that they automatically get access to me in my life. Absolutely not. No, thank you. I'm gonna forgive you from over here and you can stay over there. You know what I mean? Forgiving somebody does not mean you have to invite them back into your life. And do not allow somebody to make you feel like you have to. You can tell somebody, I forgive you, and that's where it ends. You can release resentment without refollowing them on Instagram. Boundaries still exist, and forgiveness is not about the other person. And I think that's the biggest misconception. We have taught ourselves that forgiveness is a gift that we are giving the other person, that we are giving the person who violated us, and that's completely false. Forgiveness is a gift that we give ourselves. It's the peace that we are giving to ourselves. It's not about making them feel better. So now that we've kind of cleared up what forgiveness is not, let's talk about why it's so hard, because in order for us to be able to forgive people, we need to understand why it's so hard for so many of us to do it. Like, what's the struggle? I think first, we think that it is protecting us. Somewhere in our minds, we have convinced ourselves that if we stay mad, we stay safe. That's the barrier. Like, if I don't forgive you, then it's not going to happen again. Failing to realize that if you stay mad, that's literally where you're staying. You're staying mad. It's you. You staying mad. They're not staying mad. You are. You're carrying those negative emotions around. And eventually they're not going to care that you're mad. You are the one harboring those emotions and feelings on a regular basis. When you stay mad, all you're doing is staying stuck. It's keeping you stuck in that same emotions, reliving that pain over and over again, really. I think another reason why we have a hard time forgiving people is we want justice. And so we think that not forgiving people is kind of some form of punishment on the other person. We want them to take accountability for the way that they did us. And the truth is, we cannot force anybody to take accountability for anything. The only person who can take accountability for anything in their life is that person. Only you can take accountability for what goes on in your life. Only they can take accountability for what goes on in their life. You cannot force them to take accountability for something if they are not willing to take accountability. You know what I mean? Because we want justice, we tell ourselves, oh, I'll forgive when they apologize. But then what happens if they never apologize? You're stuck. You're stuck again. And so you're stuck reliving the same old pain, the same old wounds. And you are at the mercy at somebody else's actions or lack of actions. Some people will never apologize, or even if they do, are you willing to wait forever for somebody else to give you permission to heal? Because that's essentially what you're doing. Number 3 is we confuse anger with power. Listen, I love a good revenge fantasy story as good as the next person. However, anger isn't real power. Freedom is. And there is nothing more powerful than choosing peace when you have the option to stay bitter, when you have every reason to stay bitter. There's nothing more powerful than that. And it kind of goes back to number 2, like you want this justice so bad that you're just staying stuck in those feelings of anger and resentment. Like, for what? You're the one holding on to it, not them. Forgiveness is never for them, but it is always for you. So now that we know that, how do we do it? Because saying I forgive you, but still wanting to key their car is not exactly progress, you know? It goes back to what everything goes back to on this channel, which is shifting your mindset and a lot of radical acceptance for what goes on up top, up here. Okay. So number 1 is accept that you may never get closure. Some people are never going to admit that they're wrong. Some situations are never going to make sense. Forgiveness starts when you stop waiting for an apology that may never come. Number 2 is acknowledging your pain without letting it define you. I'm not telling you not to be upset, because when somebody violates you, you have every single reason to be angry, to be upset, to be sad, to be confused. Feel how you need to feel, acknowledge it, but move through it. Don't sit in it. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. Number 3 was a big one for me before I really started to understand forgiveness, and it is letting go of the fantasy of what could have been different. A huge part of forgiveness is grieving what could have happened, what should have happened, and then accepting what actually did happen. You cannot rewrite your past, but you can absolutely reclaim your future. And I get it. It is hard, especially when the person who has violated us is somebody that we love, somebody that we trusted, somebody that we did not expect to violate us in the way that they did. Number 4 is to shift the focus from them to you. Instead of telling yourself they don't deserve my forgiveness, ask yourself, do I deserve peace? Because at the end of the day, forgiveness is not about their worthiness, it's about your well-being. And 5 is choose freedom over and over and over again. Forgiveness is not a one-time thing. Some days you're going to feel totally at peace, and other days you're going to get pissed off again. And rightfully so. It's normal, but the key is to choose freedom over and over and over. Choosing to release the resentment until one day that just becomes your default. That just becomes your norm. Until one day it's not even a choice. It's just your standard of operation. You will get there one day, I promise. You know, it took me a long time to understand that forgiveness is a choice. That forgiveness is a conscious decision that I get to make to release myself of an emotional burden of whatever was done to me. Also, practicing gratitude and empathy helps, because I understand that even when people do us wrong, a lot of times they're just doing the best that they can with what they have. Again, it does not absolve people of their shitty behaviors, but it just helps me take things a lot less personal. It also helps me see the lesson in nearly everything. And when you can do that, the world really does become your oyster. You don't really look at anything as a waste of time or energy, because you're like, well, I learned this from that and that from this. And so it happened. That was part of my life. That was part of my story. When you really learn how to forgive and have no charge to it, really say, you know what? I release you, put you right there and keep it pushing. And you really do feel lighter. I don't know how else to explain it. I'm a Taurus, so I used to know how to hold a grudge. Oh my gosh, I knew. I used to think that I was punishing them, and how foolish of me. How foolish was I to think that I was punishing them and I'm the one walking around with a grudge. Oh my gosh. But a lot of us do that. So I share that to say, You're not alone. I used to do it too. Look, I know forgiving people is challenging, especially when it feels like that person does not deserve it. It probably feels impossible. It feels like you're being a punk. Choosing to forgive somebody is not making you weak. You are choosing peace. You're not foolish for letting go. In fact, you're foolish for hanging on. You are not naive for refusing to hold on to pain that was never yours to carry in the first place. So here's my challenge to you. I want you to think of one situation or one person that you have been holding on to and ask yourself, am I really punishing them or am I punishing myself? And if the answer is the latter, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to let it go. Because you, my friend, deserve to be free. As always, I appreciate your time. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up, a like, a comment, share, and subscribe. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace.